Let's go.
How's it going, Grace students? Welcome back to Life Groups and our series where I am answering your questions. I received 2 questions about listening to non-Christian music. Those questions basically asked, can or should Christians listen to non-Christian music? And why or why not? And those are great questions, and before I answer them, as always, pause, pray, using the prompts on screen, discuss how challenges went, and then I want you to try to answer those questions. Can or should Christians listen to non-Christian music? Why or why not? And then, after you do that, I want you to read Psalm 115, 1 through 8 together. Psalm 115, 1 through 8. So go ahead and take a few minutes and do all of that, and then come back here and we'll jump in. Okay, I will tell you that I think the answer to those questions is it depends. To explain that, I need to explain something about human nature, about how we are made. And that truth, that reality, is that we become what we behold. We become what we behold. It's common for us to think or have this impression that we are completely in charge of who we are and who we are becoming, and that we choose very explicitly, and we're very aware of what we choose to believe or value, what we do. The reality is we do have a will, we do make real choices, and we can think and process. But on the other hand, we are also very much passively shaped by what is around us and what we allow into our minds. We're not actively choosing things, we're passively impacted and affected by our environment and the things around us. And this is more true than you probably realize. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but this is so true that you should be far more intentional about the media you are consuming, the voices you are listening to, and even the people you are surrounding yourself with, because we become what we behold. The word behold means to observe or see with attention, and it usually includes this sense of awe or amazement. So beholding is part of worshiping. Beholding is part of worshiping. When we gaze on something or pay attention to something and it amazes us or grabs our attention and affection, we are actually worshiping. We are valuing and delighting in something when we behold it, when we gaze upon it, when we pay attention to it. Psalm 115 that you just read says that those who worship idols become like them. Those who worship idols become like them. An idol in the Bible was a carved piece of wood or metal or stone that represented a false god that people believed had real power and real authority. Today, we may not worship a carved image or a statue, but we do have idols. We idolize famous athletes or actors or musicians or influencers. We idolize experiences or different feelings. We idolize wealth and comfort. We idolize sex. We idolize money. And we may not want to admit it, and it may even sound excessive, but the reality is we are all tempted to worship these things. Worship is an expression of value. When we see something and it amazes us or wows us, we are valuing that thing. We are loving that thing. We are seeing that thing as worth that response. We respond naturally to things that we value. Okay, so I value my wife highly. So when I see her and when I talk with her, my heart responds to her because I value her. 2 Corinthians 3:18 says the same thing, but in a more positive way. It says, "And we all, with unveiled faces, as we behold the glory of the Lord," as we behold the glory of the Lord, are being transformed into the same image. And Paul goes on to say that that image is Christ. So as we behold the glory of God, as we behold the glory of Christ, it transforms us. It changes us. It makes an imprint on us. It forms us so that we become so that we become like Christ. Another important biblical truth for this conversation is that we are image bearers. As human beings, we are made as image bearers. We are all inherently made in the image of God, meaning we are like God in some way. The image of God, what God is like, is imprinted on us. But this also means that we can image other things. And our word image comes from the Latin word imago, which has the same root as another Latin word, imitare, which means to imitate or reflect. And then, but one more Latin word is the word imprimere, which is where we get our word imprint. And again, you guessed it, all three of those words have the same root. They come from the same root idea or word. So let me summarize that. I know that's a foreign language, it's a bunch of random words. The words image, imprint, and imitate all have similar meanings of one thing becoming like another. One thing becoming like another, or maybe even more accurately, one thing making something else like itself. Okay? So all I mean is that we, as image bearers, we will image something. We will imitate something. We will have the imprint of something on us. We will become like what we behold. We cannot avoid that. We just can't. It is baked into who we are as human beings, as image bearers. We are all like mirrors. A mirror shows an image. And as mirrors ourselves, we are going to reflect whatever we are pointed at. Or we're like soft ground. If you lay down on soft ground or on grass, you are going to make an imprint on the ground. It's going to look like the shape of your body when you are lying on the ground. So again, we are going to reflect our environments. We are going to imitate the people, the voices, the ideas around us. Those things are going to leave an imprint on us, whether we realize it or not. One more illustration. Some of the best commercials over the last 10 years are the Progressive insurance commercials about young homeowners becoming like their parents. In these commercials, you have a counselor who is trying to help young homeowners not become like their parents. You have guys giving advice to strangers in the hardware store about the best kind of screws to use for their project. You have ladies dragging people to the airport 6 hours early to make sure they're not late for their flights. And then my favorite one is the guy who buys the same shirt that he's literally wearing into the store. Progressive has picked up on this reality that we can observe, that we can see, that we all become like our parents in many ways. Maybe not every way, maybe not in the exact way, but we do become like our parents in many ways. Why does this happen? Because we are reflections of our influences. We are reflections of our influences, of the people we are around. Because we spend so much time with our parents over the course of 18 years or even beyond that, we take on their idiosyncrasies and their values and their beliefs. We walk how they walk. We talk how they talk. Again, we don't choose to do this. It just happens because we are imitators. We have things make an imprint on us. You can probably see where this is going when it comes to the music we listen to. If we listen to lyrics that idolize sex or money or freedom or self over and over and over and over, we are going to find ourselves valuing those things. You may not even realize you're valuing those things. You just may be going throughout your day, walking around thinking, and you may not even realize that that's where your mind goes. That's what you're concerned with. That's what you have anxiety over, is not having enough money, not being liked enough, not being approved of enough. Again, we are beholding those ideas and values in the music we listen to. You might think I'm too concerned about this, or that it's not that deep, but philosophers, all the way back to Plato and Aristotle in ancient Greece, wrote and thought about the effects of music. In Aristotle's Politics, which is maybe the most famous philosophical work ever written, the most important passages are about musical education and how musical education and musical consumption forms a virtuous citizen. In a very famous book, The Closing of the American Mind, another philosopher, more contemporary philosopher, Alan Bloom, explains, very convincingly in my opinion, the connections between rock music and the sexual revolution of the 1960s. Okay, I'm not necessarily saying rock music is always bad or always sexual, but those things came about together and reinforced one another. So no, it's not ridiculous for your parents to be concerned about the music you listen to. Music shapes our imaginations. Music shapes our imaginations. If you listen to music that pairs fun melodies and a fast tempo with songs about drunkenness, you are going to think that drunkenness is fun and exciting. You're going to imagine that it is. It's going to form that idea or that vision in your mind. If you listen to music that pairs heavy metal music with angry lyrics about God, you will imagine that we should be angry at God, or you may even find yourself being angry at God. If you listen to music that pairs melodies that sound sad and bitter, but also noble somehow, with lyrics about all your ex-boyfriends, you will imagine that all men are terrible and that you are a tragic queen who never does anything wrong and isn't responsible for toxic relationships. Does this mean that you can't listen to non-Christian music? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Why? Why can we listen to non-Christian music? Well, because non-Christians get things right sometimes. Non-Christians can see truth sometimes. Again, they're made in the image of God. They can see truth and goodness and beauty. So if a song is about loving your wife and being faithful to her, but there's no explicit references to the Bible or talk about God, it's still a good song because it's still saying good and true things. If a song is about true injustice or oppression and it sounds angry, then that's a good song, right? It's telling the truth and inspiring the kinds of emotions that we should feel when there is true injustice or harm to people. This is true for other media as well. The idea that these things form us or make an imprint on us. Movies and TV shows, books, social media, art, etc. All of these things have a narrative. They have a message, a value that they want you to value, that they want you to believe, and they can make you believe it or value it without even realizing it. That this is part of how homosexuality has been so normalized. I think everybody has noticed, it's not that hard to see. Everybody has noticed that there's been an increase in the amount of homosexual characters in movies and TV shows over the last 10 years. And there are people that want you to believe that this is normal and common and even beautiful, and so they'll pair a fairly good storyline and beautiful music with homosexual characters to make those people or make that type of behavior seem normal or common. And I know I quote and reference C.S. Lewis a lot, but this is why. This is a large reason why. Lewis knew this. Lewis knew the power of media and narrative and beauty. He knew that art formed people's souls. It formed human beings, and he could see how art, literature, and media were being used to steer people away from truth, goodness, and beauty as they really were and as God defined those things. And this is why he wrote fiction. This is why he wrote fairy tales, because he wanted to present truth, goodness, and beauty in a compelling way, in a story, in a medium that helped form people's souls, that helped shape human beings. So I'm not going to lay out a bunch of rules here for what music you should and should not listen to. All I will say is you should listen to music that aligns with truth, goodness, and beauty as God defines those things. You want music and the other media that you are listening to inspire virtue, to point you toward truth. And again, non-Christians can do that, or music that isn't explicitly about spiritual things can do that. I actually don't think you should just listen to worship music. I don't think you should do that. Worship music is good. Worship music is a blessing. It can teach us about God. It can teach us about the crucifixion. It can teach us about salvation and the Holy Spirit and the church, but that's about all it can teach you about. Not that those things are unimportant, but worship music is about God, so it shouldn't be about much else. You should want music that tells the truth about anything and everything. You should listen to music that tells the truth about anything and everything. What I mean is that worship music is not going to be about the goodness of marriage and children. It's not going to be about the goodness of food or home or sleep or campfires or sunrises or hikes or books or strength or beauty or a hard day's work. We need music that is about those things and tells the truth about those things and forms those truths in us. I think this is why so many people love Christmas music. There's Christmas music that is about the incarnation and birth of Christ, and it is spiritual, it is explicitly Christian. But then there's also Christmas music that is just about the cultural Christmas traditions that we enjoy. It is fun, beautiful, wholesome music about food and family and gifts and fire and snow. And it tells the truth about the goodness and beauty of those things. Some other artists that I think do this type of thing well are artists like Ben Rector or J.J. Heller. If you're into heavier stuff or harder rock, I would check out the band Thrice. They make some really good music. And I'm sure there are other artists out there that sing true things about all kinds of things in powerful ways. You just have to look for them. And you have to ask your friends. You have to go and find that music. So do your due diligence. Find music that forms your soul in a positive way, that points you to truth that the Bible teaches, even if there's no explicit reference to the Bible, right? All truth is God's truth. And even if somebody isn't a Christian, they can still say true things at times. And so find music that tells the truth about those things and let it shape you, let it form you. Again, you become what you behold. Pay attention to the voices and the influence in your life, and I really think that will bless you in ways that you can't imagine. All right, that is all I have for you tonight besides some discussion questions and challenges. Thank you for being here. May God bless you, and I will talk to you next time.